Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to another video. Now today I wanted to do something a little bit different and look at a mouse that has some very strange features, as this is the brand new Mionix Naos QG, a mouse that gives biometric readouts to tell you things like your heart rate and something called GSR or galvanic skin response. So is this actually a useful thing to have, or is this just pointless information? That's what I tried to find out. And it all started with a look at the mouse itself, which is a fantastically well designed bit of kit. The mouse weighs in at 109 grams, it's a medium to large sized mouse. It is for right-handed use only though, so if you are a left-handed person then you're going to need to use your right hand or not use it at all. And the reason for this is because your hand sits flush with the fingers with your mouse sort of touching everything. They sort of slot nicely into place on the right hand side of the mouse, and it makes for a really comfortable fit, as this is one of, if not the most comfortable mice I've ever tested. And part of the reason for that is not only its shape, but the way it feels in the hand, and this is thanks to a rubber-like coating that is used on pretty much all Mionix's mice, and it's a really soft touch feeling that it just feels premium, yet it doesn't ever feel plasticky, and it doesn't get overly sweaty, and it's just a real joy to use. On the top of the mouse you will find a heart rate sensor, and thankfully this only activates when you've actually got your hand on the mouse, so it has some metal contacts, and when you touch the contacts then the sensor comes on, and then when you release, then it releases the connection and then the light goes off, because it is a little bit annoying to have a green light flashing, but thankfully this isn't really an issue. It's worth noting as well that if you decide that all of these features are pointless and you don't want any of these biometric readouts, then you can just turn them off in the software. Otherwise, it's a fairly run-of-the-mill looking mouse. You've got your left and right clicks with a scroll wheel. The scroll wheel feels very nice to use. It's got a textured rubber finish to it, and it is up there with some of the best. We've also got RGB lighting though, with the two zones. We've got the Mionix logo at the front, and then the scroll wheel has a backlit RGB light in it as well. And then moving to the left hand side, you've just got two additional buttons, so backwards and forwards, but you can customize what these do in software, but you can't customize it to the same extent as things like Corsair mice, where you can pretty much do anything you want. So if you do want to use this as a sniper button, let's say, then you won't be able to do that. So while you can rearrange what the buttons do, do be aware that you are somewhat limited in the functions that you choose. Moving to the underside of the mouse, there's not really that much to report here. You've got the Teflon pads on the underside that help the mouse to glide over whatever surface you choose. You've got the sensor as well, which is a PMW3360. It's a very good sensor, and it has a native DPI of 12,000. You're almost certainly never going to use that even if you had 4K screens, but it's not necessarily a bad thing to have, and it should be more responsive at lower DPIs, at least in theory. You've also got a 1000 Hz polling rate as well, and the whole mouse makes for a very responsive experience. And that leads us on nicely to the performance side of things, as simply put, this is one of the best mice I've tested to date. And I did most of my testing with first-person shooters, and then some Mass Effect 2 as well. And of course, having a mouse that can work wonders for your shooting and your aiming definitely does come in handy. So in Mass Effect 2, I found it was very beneficial to have this mouse on hand, as it made it that little bit easier to line up headshots. Generally speaking though, I wouldn't say that it's going to straight up make you a better player, as this definitely takes a bit of time to adjust to the tools you're using, but once you've got used to this mouse, it really was a pleasure, and I found it very easy to use. Moving across to some more competitive stuff, so Call of Duty. Again, it doesn't necessarily make you a better player. I'm very used to having a sniper button that can be used to lower the DPI, so it was definitely a shame that I couldn't assign one of the buttons on the mouse to do that. But most people aren't going to be as used to that as I am, and most people probably wouldn't want to use a sniper button anyway. And for those sorts of people, then it's fantastic. I really did find that it glided across my surface easily, the tracking was very good, and it was just a real pleasure for me to use. But of course, it's not just the gaming performance that makes this mouse what it is, it's more about the biometric features, as checking out other mice, cheaper mice, that have similar features minus the biometrics may well be useful to a lot of people. Because simply put, I'm not convinced that having biometrics in a mouse is very useful. Not at least to me. I mean, sure, some people out there may well find that it is very beneficial, but for me, there's no real need to know that information. And the way it works is you download the Overwolf application that overlays stuff on your game. In this case, it connects to the Naos software, and then you can use that to put your heart rate and your GSR on screen. Now, the GSR is definitely the thing I find the most pointless here, as it's essentially just a squiggly line, and I have no idea what it means. Nothing tells me that, and even when you go and look in the archive later, I have no idea what this means. There's nothing there to tell me what's good, what's bad. There's no explanation at all, and I just find that it's almost like really half-baked software. And especially as this mouse has been out for a few months now, I'm disappointed that there isn't more here. Heart rate is a lot more useful though, as it can tell you whether a game is stressful or not, and how you're getting on in game. So for example, things like Call of Duty, then it will tell you when you get into firefights that yes, you're having a bad game, or maybe you're relaxed and you're playing very well. I find that it's probably going to be the most useful if maybe you've got a heart condition, or you're trying to lower your sort of heart rate, because then you can maybe find games that are easier on you. And from a health point of view, this could be useful, as you could then be playing games that are good for you and avoiding the ones that are not. But it's such a small niche market of people that this is going to be useful for. I'm not entirely convinced that this is really going to sell all that well. But if you are interested in one of these features, then obviously there's not really anything else on the market like it. And then the last thing to mention is just the RGB lighting and the software. The RGB lighting, it's fine. I mean, to be honest, most people will be absolutely fine with it. It doesn't have the flashy effects that you get with Razer or Corsair stuff, but I think that's fine for most people. The color selection, it's not always that accurate. Selecting a red looks a little bit pink, but it's not really a big deal. If you're buying this for its RGB features, you're probably buying the wrong mouse. And so to bring this all to a conclusion, this is simply put one of the best mice on the market today. It fits really nicely in your hand, assuming you're right-handed. The performance is on point and is a real joy to use. I was going to say pleasure to use, but I've probably said that way too many times already this video. But the main thing about it is that it's very expensive for a good mouse. You can get wireless mice for this money, and therefore if you're not interested in heart rate or GSR, then it's probably not really that useful to you, and you should check out one of Mionix's other mice that offer similar performance but at a lower price. But what do you think? Is this a useful feature? Please let me know down in the comments. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts. Thanks to Mionix for getting this review sample out. Do subscribe if you want more videos like this, and of course a massive thanks to Corsair for sponsoring the channel as always. Thanks, I'll see you in the next video.